Maybe we're starting the show now. Native Path collagen. Get on your collagen journey for as low as $21, up to 45% off. Go to getnativepath.com/Godzilla. That's the sponsor for the show today. I guess, and also we'll be giving out some picks here. And if you have a gambling problem, note that these are for entertainment purposes only, all of our picks. And I want you to call 1-800-GAMBLER if you have a gambling problem. If you live in Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Louisiana, Maryland, Michigan, Nebraska, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, or Wyoming, call 1-800-327-5050 or visit gamblinghelpline-ma.org. If you're in Massachusetts, 877-GHOPE-NY, or just text HOPE-NY in New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP if you're in Arizona, 1-800-522-4700 in Kansas or New Hampshire, 888-789-7777, or visit ccpg.org if you're in Connecticut, 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa, or visit opgr.org if you're in Oregon. All right, so we're starting off the show. It's a new year. We've been doing this for, I think this is our second full year doing it. We've been doing it for about 2.5 years total. Got the website off the ground. It started as sort of a harebrained project, and now it's turned into sort of a real thing. We have real listeners, we have real viewers, we have a real website, we have real writers. It's not just me and Jack trying to sort of pull all this together. And I know that Jack and John both wanted to sort of talk a little bit about just sort of where we're at as a company, as a show, things that we've learned, things that we're thankful for as we sort of enter the new year. And I myself just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about what an exciting experience this has been. Obviously, we've transitioned a lot. Gone are the days of us calling in on the phone and dealing with spotty service, and Jack sitting in a park in his truck, trying to sort of just make it go for an hour. Now we're expanded to 2 hours. We have contributors. Obviously, I've moved into the hosting chair, and I've learned a lot that comes with that. And I know that Jack had a few things that he wanted to talk about as well. Jack?
Yeah, so I mean, we just kind of we probably should have done this in at the end of December, but I was kind of watching like one of those broadcasts. I can't remember what, right at the end of the year, and they were doing the kind of like reflection and thank you thing that all broadcasts do right at the end of December, and I thought, oh, we forgot to do that. So I think part of the reason I wanted to just sort of schedule a couple minutes for this was just to be able to thank everybody who is involved with Godzilla Wins. As Nate mentioned, we started this project maybe 2.5 years ago, just kind of as something that we wanted to do for fun. We had collaborated with, if people don't know the story, for any like sort of newer listeners, we had collaborated with John on this newsletter he used to send out. He used to send out this crazy newsletter every Sunday with picks for every game. And there was 1 year, there were 2 years where we helped him kind of do it, but before we had the show, we just did it with him for fun, where he would pick all the games and we would make fun of him for his picks, and then he'd send out the newsletter to like 30,000 like political like professionals. Like it had nothing to do with sports. Even it wasn't like he had any sports context. He was just like spamming like the Washington Post with his newsletter, and it was a lot of fun. And so we thought, well, we're having so much fun doing this, we might as well start a website. And of course, John is the Godzilla of truth, so he came up with Godzilla Wins, and we started what was basically at the time kind of a glorified blog. It was just me and Nate back then, and a couple other writers. Brian Butcher, who writes about UGA, has been with us since the beginning. A couple other people who don't write for us anymore. And that lasted for about 6 months, and then we started hiring, as Nate said, some more professional writers. You see two of them right now, Mitch and Dan. And if you visit the site often, that Dan writes for us pretty consistently. He has a lot of content up on the site every month. So, I think the point of this was just to kind of give a shout out to some of the fantastic writers that we have at Godzilla Wins. Dan, Mitch, Brian Butcher, as I mentioned. Trent Connor does a great job for us as well. Manpreet Joss, who writes about the UFC as well. And there's been a whole bunch of other writers who have been. Darian Kelly does incredible stuff for us, both on social media, and he writes a couple articles a month as well. we've had a bunch of writers who have been really incredible just throughout this year. Toby Reithway is another one who wrote for us a lot last year and a little bit more this year. And then we just kind of want to thank everyone who has been involved with the show, whether that's Peter. Peter started with us back when we were not when we were just a blog too. He used to write up for the Ravens. Now he doesn't write for us, but he comes on the show all the time. So we want to thank Peter Crable and Jay Delsing, who has his own show, who we met this year and have been really excited to have on the show and as well. And yeah, we want to thank mostly our producers, which is Al Green and and Michael Coleman, who work for John, as well as Tyler. I think Dad also sometimes helps out on the show. So we just want to give a big shout out to everybody and kind of thank everybody for going along with us on this journey. We've learned a lot in the last 2.5 years on what kind of a sports website is and what makes a good radio show. But we also, this is like for us, the reason we do this is sort of I think two or threefold. The first reason is that we have fun doing it, and sometimes I, Dad feels this way. I know Nate does too. Um, I'm sure everyone on the show feels this way. Sometimes you need like a fun, creative outlet to kind of break up the monotony of the week. So, we look forward to the show every week, and we hope that our listeners do too, because we like to have fun. We're not like trying to become millionaires off of this radio show. If we were, we'd be pretty frustrated at this
Pretty
point.
behind
So,
schedule.
I'm not saying no if it happens.
yeah, yeah. I mean, if it happens, great. But it's never really been our main our main goal here. We really just like to have fun, and the other thing we like to do is give um, really good writers and really good radio personality an opportunity to uh, be creative, to be able to have a lot of freedom in what they write, and to be paid fairly for their work, which I take a lot of pride in. At Godzilla Wins, we pay our writers very fairly. Um, there's a lot of websites that drive down the price as well of kind of what writers get paid because they can, because it's a really tough market uh, to um, to uh, to write is for sports. Like it's just if you're a professional, you can charge a certain amount, but some guys just they just want to be able to have a byline and be paid a fair wage to do so. And so we're pretty proud of that as well. So we just want to sort of say thank you and shout out everybody who's been with us now for these last 2.5 years. And I think we're going to continue to have success and really enjoy what we do.
Well, listen, Jack, you've done a great job in putting this together. So everybody knows, basically, Jack is the publisher, if what I want to call it, the general manager of the network, both the writing and the TV show, or the radio show. And I'll get into the TV in a minute because some new things there. But Jack nailed it. I mean, we also want to give a shout out to a lot of our sponsors that believed in us at the beginning when we really didn't have anywhere near the audience that we have now. And so My Pillow and Native Path, to give a few, Birch Gold was with us at the beginning, helping us out. Rosie's Gaming in Virginia came on board almost immediately, believed in the mission that we had. And of course, the Healthy Cell, these are all founding sponsors. And so, yeah, I mean, this thing is not going to make us a ton of money. We try to break even. We're kind of about there. But the opportunity that we've given so many people to write. But Jack, you nailed it. We started this thing as a joke. It was like a blog. I sent this football picks out to my political list. And one day, Tina, who's our marketing director, emailed me and said, do you realize that your open rate on these football emails is like 32% on MailChimp, and like everything else is like 8%? It's like you send this out, 1/3 of the people open it. Nobody opens up your political commentary. It's like 10%, which is about the average. So that's where we started saying, hey, maybe there's something here. Now, we just don't have the time to do that. We put a lot of time in that. But a lot of great things happening. But to Jack's point, this is fun. I mean, I can't do politics. Everybody knows it. I cannot do it like some people 24/7, 365. I just can't do it. So this is my outlet. We have fun. I'm not going to lie to you in saying that it's a lot of fun working with my son and seeing him grow into running a business and managing this whole thing. It was his vision at the beginning, not mine. I'm a participant. So basically him and our CEO, Ann, my wife, is the one that has driven this thing forward. And Jack, you've done a super job. And Nate, I want to thank you also for stepping in here to host. This is not easy, as you found out the first couple of weeks, to host a show for 2 hours with 5 people on a panel, all with something to say. So it takes a skill, and couldn't be prouder of the team that we have. Now I got some updates, guys. That's going to be really fun updates. Number one, our TV. This is going to get picked up in a couple of weeks on a TV station in Roanoke, Virginia, of all places.
Yeah.
Don't ask me why. Boy. Don't ask me how, but they have this TV thing that they put together called the Casino Channel, and they're picking up our show on Saturday, and then they're going to rerun it on Sunday. So we might have to change our clock a little bit when that comes down.
Gonna need some hair and makeup.
Yeah, a little bit. But the other thing that we're doing, which will be February 1st, is we're launching the company, the parent company, Disruptor Radio, is launching its own TV channel on Roku, Apple TV, and Fire Stick. So, like when you go to Roku on OTT, which is an internet TV, basically, when you go to Roku or Fire Stick or Apple TV, probably around February 1st, and you put in John Frederick's Media Network, our show is going to come up. When you put in Godzilla Wins on a Saturday, the show is going to come up on TV. And, if you look at the growth in OTT on smart TVs, it's pretty stunning. We saw this when I was with Rav, which I'm no longer with. That doesn't have a channel. That's just an OTT network, and that has grown in audience pretty substantially. Now I hooked up with OANN, One America News. They have their own channel on a couple of different platforms, but they're also in the streaming game. So in about 2-3 weeks, we're going to be live on any smart TV that has any of those 3 channels: Apple TV, Roku TV, or Fire Stick, and we'll have our own logo up and everything else. So it's going to be pretty fun. That's why we continue to grow. We're going to continue to grow our audience. I mean, we're averaging 5,000 people on a Saturday on our Getter live feed, which is only a tiny piece of what the audience is, because the other thing is we've launched on Monday. We're launching 9 radio stations that we just bought in West Virginia. So 9. So that's going to give it an added platform on Saturday, a big athletics town. We've also got a website coming for that Jack will be managing. So there's just a lot of opportunity here. And like Jack said, one of the most fulfilling things for me is giving young writers and writers that want to have a byline and they want to write, really good stuff and get paid for it, and not get, pennies for clicks and stuff, which I just can't stand that. So giving them an opportunity, seeing them grow has been very gratifying. But we couldn't do any of this without our sponsors. So for all sponsors out there, just thanks for being here.
Yeah. I love the Roanoke, Virginia thing real quick, Nate, because sometimes people will be like, wait, you have a radio show? Like, you're on the radio? And I'll say something, like, oh, TV. Yeah, like, check it out on Getter. We're huge there. So now I get to say, oh, yeah, we're huge in Roanoke, Virginia. So that alone gives me a lot of satisfaction.
Just say, go Hokies. You'll be fine. You're good.
Yeah, that's right.
You're good, man.
One thing that gets our hackles up about this show is that everyone's like, oh, how's the podcast doing? And we're like, no, this is live.
Boy, does that drive you bananas?
Nothing drives me more crazy than the podcast comment. It's like, excuse me, we're live in Nashville every Saturday, baby.
Legitimate organization.
Yeah.
Well, as one of the
huge news on us live on the radio.
That's cool. Hey, I just wanted to say, as one of the writers that you gave like an old guy a chance to do something he loves, I want to thank you all for this opportunity, because like for a U8 soccer coach and a guy that's a loan officer that used to write 20 years ago. Me dropping Peter Brewington's name, who, and then Dan Angel happened to live in my county at one point, and then all of a sudden you guys are letting me write for you also.
I grew up there.
I know, it's awesome. Oh, look at this.
Yes, I noticed that.
Too funny.
All right, so we have some college football stuff to react to. I know that me and Jack have been texting about it often, and the first game was sort of, we kind of always thought that this was going to be a thing where it was like, there's some good teams in the college football playoff, and then there's a bunch of teams that, the drop off is pretty steep. And the first game that I kind of want to talk about was the quarterfinal Fiesta Bowl, which was a pretty significant beatdown on Boise by Penn State, who just seemed bigger, faster, stronger. Boise, was pretty one-dimensional with Ash and Jeanty, and that was all they really needed to be in the Mountain West. But playing a Big Ten opponent like Penn State, you could really sort of see the difference in talent level, and just sort of, it was just talent. They were just so much better. What were you guys' big takeaways from the Fiesta Bowl?
I think so my first big takeaway is last week I sat on the show and was like, oh, Boise has a legacy of winning these types of games, which hadn't happened since 2009 or something, or 2005. So, I was trying to be a little bit of a contrarian there and pick Boise just because. That didn't work out for me. I haven't been, nothing's been working out in this college football playoff. I'm like 1-7 in picks, so it's been a mess. But yeah, I think there's a lot of ways I think we could take kind of talking about all of these games. But I think the biggest takeaway from the Boise game is just, and maybe Arizona State too, and we'll talk about that in a minute, although that did turn out to be a game. I think if we're going to fix anything with the college football playoff, we probably have to fix the fact that conference champs just don't need a bye. Like, if we're going to have the bye, then we need to figure out a way to get the top 4 teams a bye. Because this isn't working where you've got, a number 3 seed, quote unquote number 3 seed, and goes in and plays Penn State and gets the doors blown off of them. Arizona State played well, but that's another team that probably should have been playing in the first round, if at all. Last week I kind of defended the buys, but this was tough for a number of reasons. All 1 through 4 seeds lost. I think there's a bunch of reasons why that happened, but Boise should never really have been in this position in the first place.
I don't know what all this chatter is about who's seated where and what teams got in. This has been fun. The object of this is to get viewers, engage them in football, and have fun. Look, we all thought the best game on the card was going to be Ohio State, Oregon. It was like pick'em game. I think Oregon, I took 2.5. I bet Oregon like a schmuck, right? We all thought that was going to be the best game. The best game of any of them was Arizona State. That was a 14.5-point underdog at kickoff that everybody thought was going to get blown out, and that goes into overtime. They come back and win. So that was the funnest game. We also thought Notre Dame, Georgia is going to be a slugfest. That was a blowout. So, to say, oh, this team got blown out, this team shouldn't be here. Georgia got blown out. Oregon State, number 1 seed, blown out, right? So, look, it was fun. All you needed, in my view, and then I'm going to give this up, all you needed was one of these underdogs to win or get really, really close. And that's what Arizona State did, Arizona State University. So I think that performance by ASU in that game on New Year's Day at noon, I think that game saved this whole college football playoff, because nobody can make the argument now that, oh, the team shouldn't be there and they get overmatched and they're all getting blown out, when if they make that defensive stop on 4th and 10, Arizona State is going to the semis. Right?
Yeah, and we're going to talk about ASU in a minute. Just to get the conversation back at Boise and Penn State here for a minute, we can have Dan and Mitch jump in. Maybe this is just a conversation of like Penn State is more dangerous than we think. Like I don't know. Maybe Dan and Mitch have thoughts on on the fact that Penn State has been basically looking as dominant as any team in the college football playoff, and now they go into play or Notre Dame, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Maybe this just says a lot about where Penn State is as a program right now.
And I think it gives Penn State a chance to get out of the Big Ten and get a big win, a big win that they classically fail to do late in the seasons and most times. Yeah, I mean, I think we can go on to thank God the Arizona State game happened, because every game was a blowout up until that point. So the playoffs weren't even that fun from a game standpoint, from my standpoint. But for the game itself, I think the storyline, Genty getting bottled up, made solidify Travis Hunter as the Heisman in my mind, so that you can take that controversy away. I like that's a good storyline there. And I think Penn State having a legit shot to go and play for a national title is pretty crazy. But the game wasn't fun, not until Arizona State. They all were just blowouts, and by the end of the third quarter, we all knew it was going to happen. So something needs to be done with the seeding and or something with the format.
Dan?
I mean, the biggest thing that I thought is we probably need to go to 16 because clearly the buys were not an advantage.
Sure.
Because Oregon looked very rusty. I was at the Big Ten championship game. Oregon started fast, looked like they were going to absolutely embarrass Penn State in that game, and it was not the same team that we saw in Pasadena. So clearly Oregon was rusty. Ohio State had a game to get themselves right and was ready to go and just punched Oregon in the mouth. And the rest of it, I mean, Texas, yeah, they were better than Arizona State, but not really. I mean, Arizona State gained 510 yards of offense. Georgia just couldn't overcome its injury situation. Even though they were the better team, the yards clearly show that Georgia had the better offense, and if Notre Dame plays like that against Penn State, it's not going to be close. And Penn State, I mean, we knew going in that this was a terrible matchup for Boise State. What is the one thing that Penn State has done year after year under James Franklin? Shut running backs down. And Boise would have had a much better shot against an opponent that doesn't have a great run defense. Facing either Penn State or Ohio State was an absolute death sentence for the Broncos. They probably would have done better if they'd gotten to play somebody else and hadn't had Penn State staring them in the face. As soon as they had that matchup, it was game over.
Yeah, and I've been thinking about the Penn State game a lot. I mean, credit to Boise, the back door was always open for the cover there. Just from a betting perspective, it wasn't it wasn't that close straight up, but we were right there for a backdoor cover right up until basically the end with Boise. And yeah, I mean, I guess my big takeaway from the Penn State Boise game also is that at this point, are we done saying that James Franklin can't win a big one? Is this enough?
Yes.
I mean, this feels
I'd still like to see him. I'd still like to see him win a Big Ten championship. I mean, what was it? SMU and Boise weren't those his two opponents? Is that right?
Yeah, and then Notre Dame.
Yeah, and then Notre Dame, who they looked okay.
Did they though, Jack?
Well,
they had 1 minute.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that in a sec. But yeah, I mean, so maybe they don't look as good. I saw Dan sort of shaking his head. You don't think James Franklin has done enough?
No, and it's ironic that John and I are on opposite sides on this issue, because I actually like James Franklin and John thinks he's Satan incarnate. But yeah, no, I don't think he's done enough, because beating SMU and Boise State, I'm sorry, it's just not that impressive. He still doesn't have a win. Maybe he has one win against Ohio State. I don't think he has one. I mean, he hasn't won against a top 5 opponent. I mean, Jack said it multiple times. Penn State only ever loses to Ohio State and Michigan. Now that Oregon's in the Big Ten, you can add the Ducks to that list. But, I mean, still, Penn State has got to prove itself against one of those teams. And the fact is, the Nittany Lions were absolutely gifted a glide path to the national title game, because SMU, Boise, and then either a banged-up Georgia or an overrated Notre Dame, it's I'm sorry, they still haven't proven anything, even if they do get to that national title game. They'll win it, and that's a different story. But
yeah, because to win it, you're going to beat Texas or Ohio State, so that takes care of itself, and then you have a top 5 opponent in there. But that's a tough road, man. Can you imagine being James Franklin right now and being like, oh, what do I have to do? Win 3 playoff games? Not enough. You got to just do it all. Let's go.
I mean, I'm sorry, but when the bracket shakes out like that, that is the reality. Like it's not necessarily fair to James Franklin, but that is the reality that Penn State got absolutely handed a straightforward path to the national title game. When the brackets came out, I thought this is going to be Penn State against whoever comes out of that Ohio State Oregon.
Yeah, and what a hilarious scenario that in a couple of weeks we could be sitting around here being like, well, he just won the asterisk. Like we'd never seen this sort of playoff before, and James Franklin,
and
we'll see after they rejigger everything, and then we'll see if James Franklin's for real next season.
Well, you guys aren't giving.
No. If he wins the national title, then all that criticism obviously
it has to. The real quick point, talking about Boise State had a better matchup. I think that's why the seedings, this pool of teams is really cool that's in here. And if you had the proper matchups, I think you could have had some better games in there. And I don't know how you do that, just by looking at them. But it just feels like there was a lot of mismatches, and that's why we saw some blowouts in the first rounds and injuries.
Well, I'll tell you what, if Georgia had taken Healthy Cell for a couple of weeks before that game, they'd have done a lot better than they did. I know they were banged up, but look, I bet Georgia. I was going to bet Notre Dame all week, and then I read Brian Butcher's column.
I did too.
I read his column twice, and I'm like, I sent him an email. I'm like, or I think I called him up, and I said, "This is one of the best football analysis that I've ever seen. You've actually your column talked me into Georgia based on their offensive line and running the football and whatever else he said in there." And so I went ahead and I changed my bet, which of course, whenever you do that, it's an automatic L, right? You always lose. That's why you never do that.
I did the exact same.
I mean, it's like so dumb, but he's a great writer. But if Georgia had taken Healthy Cell like I do, they would have been a lot sharper. They'd have felt better. They'd have got rid of their joint pain and things of that nature. One of our founding advertisers, Healthy Cell, I take my 2 packets a day when I get up, and then I take my REM sleep at night. I take the vitamins. So does Ann. I take Focus because I'm 67. I'm going to be 67 in March, so you got to stay sharp. And then when I go to bed, I take REM sleep. I went to bed last night, dreamed all night, slept like a baby here in Washington. And this is like the best thing ever invented. It comes in a gel pack. We can get you 20% off right now. Now, you've heard this over and over, but you haven't taken the step. You haven't ordered it. And I urge you now, just go to healthycell.com/Godzilla, healthycell.com/Godzilla, promo code Godzilla, you get 20% off. If you just want to get one, get the REM sleep. If you already have that, you want to go ahead and order the joint and mobility if you're feeling the aches and pains, because that's going to take care of everything. This stuff is made from heaven. And so just check it out today. Help us out. Help yourself out. Just go to healthycell.com/Godzilla, promo code Godzilla, 20% off. If Georgia had done that, maybe they would have been competitive in that game.
One note about Brian Butcher's Georgia analysis: come for the analysis, leave before the picks. Like, he's a Georgia homer, so it's very rare that he ever picks anyone not named UGA. Just take that with a grain of salt. Every once in a while he does, and it's kind of surprising. But his win-loss rate is incredible because Georgia wins a lot of games. But but his analysis is great. You just when you get to the picks part, just click off the page because it's always going to be hammer the dogs, baby.
Yeah, I think the one time he's picked against Georgia in like the 3 years he's been writing for us was against Texas earlier this year. And that was when Georgia beat Texas.
I did the same thing, though. I didn't know where to go, so I went to our page and just picked whoever we picked.
I know that's the same thing I did because he actually talked me out of it, and I just read his article. I'm like, well, I'm going to bet Notre Dame, but let me just see what he's saying. So I changed my bet. Look, and if you ever gamble, listen, this is you never change your bet because it is 100% guaranteed to lose in your entire life. It never works out. When you're going to bet something, bet it. Never change it, ever.
So we have some sort of big news to talk about. We've obviously been sort of recapping the game slowly. One of the things that we haven't gotten to was probably the most meaningful sort of individual call that the referees made for the college football playoff. Late in the game, there was a minute 15 left, scores tied in the Arizona State-Texas game. Melquan Stovall catches the ball at, basically midfield on a third down. He gets taken out by a Texas defensive back. It looks a lot like targeting. It gets reviewed for targeting, and they end up picking that up and not calling it targeting. And that really, obviously we saw a lot of weird field goal shenanigans in that Texas game just as it was. So there's no guarantee that Arizona State makes that field goal if they get into field goal range. But it looked a lot like targeting. Do we have thoughts on
yeah, I just need to weigh in here. If that's not targeting, why do we have a targeting rule? Looking at that, I couldn't believe they picked up that flag. The guy got a defenseless receiver, got nails in the helmet, and he's unconscious for like 2 minutes. And that's not targeting? Why even have the rule, Nate?
Yeah. So, a couple things, right, on this play. The targeting thing is like, it's supposed to be a safety thing. Like, that's why we have it. So that looked like targeting. Like, I've been reading all the commentary that, it needs to be these 4 things in the rule book, and it's only 2 of the 3 or whatever. I get that, but like, it doesn't pass the eye test. It doesn't pass the smell test. We all have been watching targeting now for the last couple of years. We know what it looks like. We see it when it happens. It's very rare that they get it wrong. They're overly cautious about that stuff, as they should be, because it's a safety issue. And they didn't want to call this because they didn't want to influence the outcome of a huge game, a game in which Texas, which is a massive brand, would have been on the wrong side of this. And I think pretending that this is some sort of rules issue is like ridiculous. This was a situational issue. This was like, we're not going to influence the outcome of this game by calling this targeting play and have all the smoke, that comes with that if Arizona State was able to win. Now, I would be more mad about this, setting the safety thing aside, if it wasn't, if Texas had been, if Bert Arbin had kicked a field goal and won the game at the end of the game, I would be more upset. Like, for an outcome, like situation where it influences the outcome, Arizona State had plenty of chances to win that game, and so did Texas. Like, I can't believe Bert Auburn missed 2 field goals. That's crazy. But in overtime, it's the first overtime, right? 4th and 13. Kenny Dillingham brings like an incredibly risky blitz when all you have to do is stay in front of your man. You've been playing pretty good defense. Quinn Ewers really hasn't been, like throwing darts since the first half, and you just empty out your defensive secondary and just leave a guy wide open in the end zone. Then they get the 2-point conversion. The defense can't recover, and Arizona State loses after Texas scores immediately on the next play in the second overtime. So, to me, as in just in-game play calling, the 4th and 13 sort of like high-risk blitz was more influential in the outcome of the game than the targeting call. But when you talk about just the safety of kids, that's the whole reason we have this rule. And if you're going to start splitting hairs about what it is, because you don't want to influence a massive game where like a gazillion people are watching, and everybody can see that Arizona State is like, not as good as Texas in many ways. They needed a lot of things to happen for that game to even be close. I don't know.
Somebody has to explain why that was not
Whoa,
targeting.
wait a minute.
That's the thing to me.
Wait a minute, Jack. I got to disagree with a bunch of that. That game showed that Arizona State was better than Texas because ASU crushed Texas in yards game. Like, the Sun Devils put up 510 yards of offense. Like, if not for a couple special teams miscues, we're not even talking about that targeting game because Texas isn't even close. Like, that game did not show. That game did not, like, 100% did not show that Texas was the better team. That showed that ASU not only deserved to be there, but deserved to be seen.
For sure. And I think the targeting call just insults your intelligence. If you've watched college football all through the year, they call that so nonchalantly. When it happens, it's just so quick. It's just done. 2 minutes later, gone. It's almost like you just know it. I mean, because they're college kids, they're 20 some years old, 20 years old. So they're like, it's a safety issue. So that's what's weird about it. If they want to start parsing it, he didn't put the crown of his helmet down, then do that throughout the season, but make the call uniform like you did. And so it's just ridiculous.
And on top of that, I mean, you mentioned Kenny Dillingham's mistake in overtime, which, yes, it was a high-risk play and it didn't work out. But if that targeting gets called, that game never even gets to overtime because ASU has a first down with a minute to go just on the edge of field goal range and can control the clock, set up their kicker. Now, there's no guarantee that ASU makes it because they had their own special teams issues. But if the Sun Devils come through, then Texas never even gets a chance for their kicker to miss a second field goal because they don't see the ball again. And the most likely outcome is ASU 34, Texas 31, game over, Sun Devils face Ohio
State. And look, I mean, I was trying to be nice to Texas. I hate Texas, so I was trying not to be. I was trying not to be like. I was trying not to be like what you call it, like too biased. You know, I mean, I'm an Arizona State fan. So.
Yeah, Jack, you went too far the other way.
I don't like that in Roanoke, dude.
You went way.
Well, I guess just watching the game, I just sort of felt like Arizona State needed a lot to happen to get back in it. And I kind of thought, okay, well, maybe this says more about Texas than it does about Arizona State. But now that Dan's on the ASU train, I mean, hell yeah, I'm right there with him. I think ASU deserve to be in that spot. I think they're the only bye team that played a close game. You saw all these bye teams, like Dan just said about Oregon. They were rusty coming out. Oregon looks flat. They all look. Georgia looks kind of flat. And Arizona State looked flat. And Arizona State was the only team that had the, I guess, mental fortitude to slow the game down and say, hey, we can get back in this. Let's get our defense to get some stops here, and then we'll get Cam Scatterbo going, which happened. And yeah, I mean, I just there were so many things that went wrong at the end of the game that Texas kind of had to that Arizona State had to have happen to even be in that position. And yeah, I mean, the field goal issue at Arizona State too, like there's no guarantee that they're going to make a field goal, but I think Texas probably, I think they might suck. Like, I can't believe that they were like in this
their way
position.
To the national title.
Yeah, I can't believe Bert Auburn missed 2 field goals. Like, he never misses any field goals. This is just like another example of Texas sort of being a disaster. But ASU had, I mean, they were, Texas looked really tight, and ASU was playing loose.
You might have to go ahead and say it. The SEC was kind of overrated.
And your name is Bert Auburn, and you have a porn star name, like after your first pet and street you lived on. I mean, anything can happen.
Well, look, ASU played a great game. I also disagree with Jack on the blitz call at the end. I mean, this is how they've won games. This has been his defense all season. They blitz constantly. That's how they got back in the game. They did a bunch of run blitzes when they thought Texas was going to run. That's how they kept getting the ball back. I mean, that's what their defense have done all season. That's what their young coach is known for. And he did an all-out blitz. And if you were watching that game, as soon as Texas picked it up, and you saw it on TV, and this guy had time, we knew somebody was going to be wide open. But I mean, armchair quarterback 2020. He could have played a traditional defense and tried to cover these guys. But that's how they won all season. That's been his calling card.
No, but the reason they won all season is because they're able to slow the game down because they have an amazing running back who is pretty fierce, and they have a coach that knows how to talk to their players. I'm not sure they won all season because they have some sort of key defensive blitz scheme that screws everybody up. I mean, the issue with that call is it is so emotional. You just, even if they get a first down, you don't give up a touchdown. Like, 1st and 10, fine. The defense has to feel like they are they didn't just blow the game wide open. And that's what happened. And they couldn't get back in their head afterwards.
Right.
The 2-point conversion is good, and then all of a sudden Texas scores another touchdown.
Yeah.
I was convinced if you get to the 2-point where you're trading 2-point conversions in the third overtime, Arizona State wins that game. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, you've got the best running back, in the country, or you got the best running back at least on the field. You just give it to him 4 times. You keep scoring those 2-point conversions. At some point, Quinn Ewers is going to throw in the back of the end zone and screw up. and you're going to win that game.
I
It
agree.
was just a situation where you just needed your defense, even if they weren't able to get a stop, to at least keep them out of the end zone, call a timeout, calm everybody down.
Right.
Because you got Jake Plummer there, and Arizona State's going crazy. They got a ton of people there. This is like the biggest game in program history, probably, definitely. And they give up a touchdown on a huge 4th and 13. Even
Second biggest. I would say the Rose Bowl that Plummer played in, where they were playing for a national championship.
right, what was that, like 97?
Jake the Snake.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
So yeah, we'll put that up there. Shout out to Jake the Snake too. Electric on the sidelines.
Incredible.
No question. Hey, let me give a shout out to one of our great sponsors here, Get Native Path. I want to just go to getnativepath.com/Godzilla. I've got my collagen right here. Ann and I travel with it. We're in DC, obviously setting up our operation here. I feel great when I take I take Healthy Cell and Collagen. Those are 2 supplements I take. If you haven't noticed, I've lost 40 pounds. That's right, 40, not 20, not 10, 40 pounds. I got another 30 to go. Why am I doing it? Collagen. It's not a weight loss supplement, but I tell you what happens when you take it, you feel better. And when you feel better, you have more energy. And then you do more things, right? Simple thing like I don't take the elevator now all the time. I walk up the stairs. Couldn't do that before collagen. In the airport in Pittsburgh, I take that long walk, runway thing where you just stand there and the escalator goes. Now, I don't do that. I actually walk to the gate. These are the little things that matter. But as you get older, your body needs collagen. Is the most important protein they can possibly have. It's going to help your skin. It's going to help you feel better. It is an absolutely essential ingredient that in the old days, we got it from meat. Now you can't because it's all the Frankenstein meat and all that nonsense in these big corporate farms. And this thing's all natural. 2 weeks, you're going to feel better. It's only $21 for one of these. I mean, you just can't beat it. Go to getnativepath.com/Godzilla. No promo code. Getnativepath.com/Godzilla. Do it now. Do this for yourself and your family because all my family's on it. Everybody's on Native Path. Ann is on it. My whole team is, the whole company's on it. That's why we're, firing here at all cylinders. Really is going to make a difference in how you feel. Getnativepath.com/Godzilla, as low as $21. Save up to 45%. Can't beat it. Do it now. 2 weeks. You're going to feel great.
Yeah, and I mean, we can a team that could have probably used some collagen to be able to knock the rust off and recover a little bit better we got to talk about Oregon, and we got to kind of slow things down with that for a second, because the Oregon game, I mean, they come in, they're undefeated. They've looked, as good as anybody in the country, and then they go out and they, just spot Ohio State 34 points, to start the game. I mean, just zero answers for Jeremiah Smith. He just goes totally nuts on them. They can't contain him at all. I mean, and we talked about this last week. We were looking at the line, me and Jack and John, when we were doing the show, and we were looking at the line and we thought, why is Ohio State favored here? I mean, they already lost to Oregon, earlier in the season. Granted, that was a really close game, but it just didn't feel like Ohio State had done, it didn't feel like Oregon had made any mistakes to warrant sort of not being a favorite in that game. And then they go out and they just get killed by Ohio State. And it was a fishy line, and it was never close. I mean, even the 20-point ending, that wasn't as close as the game was. Like, it was not a 3-touchdown game. I mean, is Ohio State just that good?
I think Ohio State was riding some nice momentum since that loss to Michigan, the blowout win over Tennessee, and then Oregon. I think that was the first we saw the bye week affecting a team. Just looked so flat coming out, and when you're down 30 some points, coming back from that is obviously impossible. But I think it's a combination of both. I mean, Ohio State was just, they benefited from not having a bye, being able to just keep their momentum and moving forward. And they are a damn good team. And Michigan just got hot, and that's just the rivalry game that happened. And I think Ohio State just really is legitimately that good.
Dan, I saw you trying to get in there.
Yeah, I mean, like I've written about my piece about why Ohio State should fire Ryan Day was a little bit tongue in cheek, not completely, Ryan Day does have a Michigan problem. Like, that is Ohio State's biggest issue with that game is Ryan Day has an obsession with Michigan, and it filters down to his team. Against anybody else, Ohio State plays like it's capable of. So the fact that Michigan's not in this playoff is a very good thing for Ohio State because they don't have that mental block that exists with Michigan, because it absolutely exists for that 1 week a year. And this game, Ohio State scored early, and having seen both teams, the biggest thing that concerned me with Oregon, like, I thought the Ducks were going to be able to overcome it, but the biggest thing that concerned me was if Oregon's defense let down early and got in a hole, Ohio State's run defense is so good that they can take that part of the game away and really just take you out of your game plan. And that's exactly what happened. Like, Oregon finished with like negative 20 rushing yards. I mean, that just doesn't happen ever. I mean, the Ducks got forced out of their game plan because Ohio State was so dominant on offense early. And from there, it was just Ohio State was completely in control. And I mean, another thing, like Dan Lanning said after the game, it just wasn't our day today. And he's absolutely right. Like, the Oregon players afterward were just congratulating Ohio State and basically just knew, like, we didn't have it today. Nothing we did today would have worked. Hats off.
There's something about having the best player in the world. Jeremiah Smith might be the best player in college football right now. I mean, and that's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah. I think, like, the big thing for me too is like this. I don't think this says as much about like the bye system as people are making it out to be. If Oregon and Ohio State played 10 times, maybe it's 5-5. Maybe it's Oregon. Maybe Ohio State wins 6 out of the 4 or 6 out of the 10 or something. In one of those situations, if we're just talking probabilistically, like variance wise, in 1 or 2 of those situations, Ohio State blows out Oregon. In another 1 or 2 of those situations, Oregon blows out Ohio State. So I think Dan is absolutely right. Just what Dan Lanning said. This wasn't our night. And if we caught them on a different night, maybe the game's closer, maybe we win, etc. I don't think this is like an argument for going to an 18 playoff so you don't have any buys or whatever. This whole like the buy system is broken, I think, is wrong-headed. Boise should have never been in that position. Arizona State played Texas really well. But, I mean, there may have been more like a better team in that situation too. Although I don't know. Georgia, maybe you take into account the fact that Carson Beck is hurt. They did that last year with Florida State. So
they shouldn't have.
Yeah, they shouldn't have, but they did, So like maybe we go to a 16-team playoff, et cetera, but I don't think this is like an argument to get rid of the buys or that all of a sudden these college kids can't do this. I mean, we've seen teams as disciplined as Alabama take a month or 2 off and then a month off and then absolutely wreck a team in the national championship or whatever. So I think that's a little overblown, like the buy situation.
One thing about that though, Jack, we've never seen a situation like this where a team was facing somebody who had just played when they were taking a month off. Like Alabama never had to play somebody who had just played 7 days ago.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I understand the argument. I just don't think the Oregon-Ohio State game is a good example of that argument. I think people are making a mountain out of a molehill here where Oregon just didn't have it, and that happens. We see these blowouts in these football playoff games all the time. And coaches are going to complain and everything else. And I say expand it to 16. You know what I mean? Then you've got Ole Miss and all sorts of things.
Yeah,
I think that game had the seeding issue, right? Ohio State and Oregon shouldn't be playing that quickly. We should be seeing that in the further rounds. But that's their fault. I mean, they lost.
That's another thing I wish they would address. Like, it's a caveat for the NCAA tournament in basketball. Why can you not have a situation where you keep conference teams from meeting until the semifinals?
Yes,
I agree with that.
They should have set up the bracket so that, like, if you have a situation where 2 teams in the same conference didn't play each other, like if Penn State and Indiana had faced off, fine. They didn't play each other in the regular season. Go ahead and meet in the quarterfinals of the first round. But if you're creating a rematch, don't do that.
I agree with that.
And this is that is exactly like the college football playoff. Like, college football never thinks through anything. They're like a very like let's try it out and then fix it later organization. I guess. So part of the NCAA anyway. And so I think
kind of like our company.
exactly, adjusting in real time. So I think next year they'll make some adjustments. But one thing I will say about the college football playoff, and then we can get to some of these games, I think, is that it is working. Like, I believe now you can, I this is off the top of my head. I think the AP top four, the sort of four teams that probably would have made the college football playoff if we only had four teams left were Oregon, Georgia, Notre Dame, and Texas. Maybe the college football playoff puts Penn State or Ohio State in there or whatever, but mostly it's those four, I think, at the end of December. And instead we have and then four, Notre Dame, Texas, Penn State, and Ohio State. So if you want the parity, if you're saying, hey, the college football playoff is good, expand the brackets because we're going to get a more fair, like a fairer system that's not just going to have these four teams in there arbitrarily, then it is working because you got two teams that probably wouldn't have been in this position otherwise. They just need to tweak some stuff, and it's going to be awesome, and they're going to expand it to 16.
And college football knows what they're doing. They make us talk controversy, baby. Yeah. Controversy. It's working on Getter right now.
I want to kind of pivot and start kind of looking. We've been spending the last 53 minutes sort of looking back, and I kind of want us to look forward. There are two semifinal games, obviously, and then we'll get the national championship. The first game that I kind of wanted us to just sort of give our initial picks on is Penn State Notre Dame. It's a line that makes zero sense to me. Notre Dame at this point is a 1.5 point favorite. Penn State looked excellent. Notre Dame beat a pretty banged up Georgia team with, Riley Leonard's a great quarterback, but I'm not really sure that he showed his best stuff, only throwing for 90 yards and basically just doing just enough to sort of win that game against Georgia, and it was mostly like a defensive effort against a backup quarterback for Georgia. Why is Notre Dame favored here?
I don't know, but I love Penn State in this game, and they're not getting any respect. And look, I'm not James Franco fan, but I am going to be when I bet this game because next week, because I think Penn State is probably the most underrated team now in the Final Four. We don't know how good they are. They're big, they're strong, they're fast, they play good defense. They're just a well-balanced team, very well coached. And Notre Dame, again, they beat Georgia, but who have they played? I mean, that was probably the argument why I bet Georgia. It's like, well, who did they play? And but this Penn State team, I mean, they have just gotten better and better and better. And so I can't believe I'm getting a 1.5. This, I tell you what this is, and I do this in hockey against the Boston Bruins, right? This is just Notre Dame money. There are Notre Dame fans. Yeah. It's Notre Dame money. It's Vegas Notre Dame money driving this line. There's a lot of Irish fans out there. They're betting Notre Dame. And that's what this money is. It's like I fade Boston in hockey all the time because some of those lines are ridiculous in hockey because everybody loves Boston. They all bet the Bruins, and it drives the money line. To me, I cannot believe I'm getting a 1.5 with Penn State. This is my best bet of the month. No question. They're going to win this whole game, and they're going to win it big.
Dan, like what?
I think John is absolutely right. I don't expect this game to be close. I mean, if Notre Dame plays the way that it did against Georgia, Penn State wins by 3.
Man, after reading that Billy Walters book, Gambler, I started to go to these like aggregate sites that would do predictions, right? And Notre Dame is coming up as 58-59% predictors on the 5 ones that I've been looking at. Now I end up 500 for the year, so I don't know how much that's going, but for whatever reason, but that's not national money. That's not Notre Dame. Everybody's just roots for the team money. So that's what scares me right now. So I don't know where I'm going to go yet. I first off, I hate both of these teams. I grew up, my grandfather instilled, you hate Penn State, you hate Notre Dame. It's just what it is. So I get to take out that part of it. But it scares me. I mean, Notre Dame just feels like they have to have a special teams, something to help that offense out. They have a great defense, it looks like. They just look like they need something else. So I'm leaning Penn State. I think I'm going to take Penn State, but I'm not ready yet. I still got to research some more.
Yeah.
The first thing
there's this argument. like Notre Dame money is like flooding the market, but like Penn State money is like also like a real thing. It's not like these are like two programs that like don't have a fan base.
Yeah, but Notre Dame has a national fan base, and they always.
And so does Penn State, though. Penn State has a
not to the
national
extent that Notre Dame.
Yeah,
has.
not an NBC
Nobody can
contract
explain to me why Penn State's not 3. When I looked at the line when it first came out, I'm like, I hope it's not 3.5. You know, I hope I don't have to, you know, put the hook down. I hope I don't have to buy it back. Maybe it'll be 4. And I look up and I'm like, I'm getting 1.5. I had to put I swear to God, I had to put my glasses on. I'm like, this has got to be a mistake. How am I getting 1.5 with what appears to be a team that can win the whole thing against Notre Dame that really didn't look that good? Georgia just looked pitiful in this game.
Yeah, but I mean, but Georgia also.
Georgia was looking good, man.
Georgia looked better than Notre Dame.
But and that's the thing, like
I'm not going to say they looked good, but I mean they held Notre Dame to like 225 yards of offense. Like if Kirby Smart takes a knee to end the first half and that kickoff return doesn't happen, we're talking about Penn State versus Georgia.
Yeah, and I think like there's a couple things I kind of want to just chime in here for a minute. The first is that I think one of the reasons the line is the way the line is because Georgia, even without Carson Beck, is like a stronger opponent than either of the two teams Penn State faced. So that's kind of the first thing is I think people are giving a little bit of love to Notre Dame. I think Dan's right that Notre Dame didn't look so good, but you know, Georgia beat Texas in the SEC championship with Gunnar Stockton at the helm for most of that game as well. They had a lot of time to prepare. Notre Dame has a good defense. Like, you know, I mean, that's just how it is. I think if you're betting this game, you bet the under. Like Penn State Penn State loves to get in rock fights. James Franklin doesn't mind winning a game 13-10. You know, they'll both slow this game down, and this is going to be sort of a defensive game. I think the one thing that has me on Notre Dame, maybe, and that's just maybe, I don't know yet, is Marcus Freeman. I mean, like, how can you not trust this guy? Like, I mean, I know Dan says that Notre Dame didn't look so good, but I have a hard time not loving Marcus Freeman just in this spot. I think he's going to have his team ready, but I don't know. I mean, if I'm betting and I say the under, I don't know what to do with the side.
I mean, I trust James. I trust James Franklin.
It is the most likable Notre Dame ever, just because it's not Chip Kelly. But I don't know if that leads to victories. Brian Kelly. Sorry. His long lost cousin.
All right, so I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna table Ohio State, Texas, and do that at the top of the hour after a quick little reset here. I do want to say, you know, if you like the brand, go ahead and give us a follow on all of our socials. We're trying to grow those. We're Godzilla Wins big across all platforms. We're on Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, you name it. We're like the kings of Getter Sports. So just go ahead and give us a follow on any of those platforms, and we would really appreciate the support to help us grow the brand. We're going to take a quick reset here for 1 minute. Don't change the dial. We'll be back at the top of the hour. We'll be talking the Ohio State Texas college football playoff game, and we'll be talking NFL. So see you in 1 minute.
You're listening to Godzilla Wins on the John Fredericks Media Network. For a deeper dive without the jive, visit the website of winners, GodzillaWins.com. Let's get back to the show with the guys in the know, John, Jack, and Nate. It's Godzilla Wins on the John Fredericks Media Network.
All right, welcome back to Godzilla Wins Saturday Pick Show. We are rolling with the big crew. We got Jack Fredericks, John Fredericks, Dan Angel, and Mitch Rogers. And we're going to be talking some NFL action here for the coming hour. But the one thing that we kind of had to push off was Ohio State, Texas. So we're going to lead with that in just 1 second. But I'd like to remind everyone that Godzilla Wins is brought to you by Native Path. Go to getnativepath.com/Godzilla. Feel better and live better. Get yourself some collagen. It's helped John look better, feel better. It's aided him in his weight loss journey. He's had more energy to be a little bit more active. It's been huge for Jay as well. As you get older, your body stops getting the collagen it needs, and it supports, not only healthy joints, but also, hair, nails, skin, all of that. You can see John's radiant, glowing skin on the screen if you're watching us live. So go to getnativepath.com/Godzilla and start your collagen journey for as low as $21 and up to 45% off. We're going to be giving out some picks here. We're going to be giving out a lot of picks.
Let's go.
They are for entertainment purposes only. And if you have a gambling problem, I want you to call 1-800-GAMBLER if you live in Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Louisiana, Maryland, Michigan, Nebraska, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, or Wyoming. Call 1-800-327-5050 or visit gamblinghelpline-ma.org if you're in Massachusetts. Call 877-GHOPE-NY or just text HOPE-NY if you're in New York. 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona. 1-800-522-4700 in Kansas or New Hampshire. 888-789-7777 or go to ccpg.org in Connecticut. 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa or visit opgr.org if you're in Oregon. Okay. Texas, Ohio State. We were just talking about a line that doesn't make any sense, and then you get to this game and you look at the line and you think, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, Ohio State should be a big favorite over a Texas team that was extremely tight against Arizona State. Texas looked overwhelmed by the moment at times in ways that Ohio State just hasn't. I mean, all Ohio State did is just run through their game. So how are we? Ohio State's a 6-point favorite, 6.5-point favorite, depending on where you're betting it. What do we like for this other semifinal game?
I got to know who's going to stop that wide receiver that Ohio State has. If somebody can
nobody.
explain that to me, then maybe I'll take a look at Texas. But what did that guy in the first half of that game? Like it was an automatic. Every time they threw a pass, this guy was wide open. And Oregon on paper had a pretty good defense and not that bad of a secondary. I mean, and the speed he had, he was just faster than anybody on the Ducks team. So I guess Skazian's got to come up with a plan for this. But I mean, who's gonna stop this offense? But I just want somebody to explain to me what happened in that Michigan game. How did they get shut out in the second half? I mean, the team that I saw
Because
Michigan they get Ohio State gets shut out at home in the second half, and then Oregon they couldn't stop on a single possession. Like, how does that happen?
John, it's because, and I said this when I wrote that piece, Michigan is completely in Ohio State's head. Like, the Buckeyes have an unhealthy obsession with that game. Like, I was at the Indiana-Ohio State game, and the second that game was over, Ohio State's putting up on the scoreboard a countdown to the Michigan game and labeling it a countdown to the game against that team up north. They're so spooked of Michigan that they won't even say the name, and it is literally all that they think about for really 365 days a year. And when the opponent is anyone other than Michigan, Ohio State is able to play the way that it's capable of. They don't have that mental block. But when they see that maize and blue on the other sideline, Ohio State tightens up because Ryan Day has it in his head that nothing is more important than beating Michigan, and it just becomes an obsession that eats away at him. It filters down to his team, and Ohio State doesn't play anywhere near the way it's capable.
Would you lay the 6
in Michigan?
Absolutely lay the 6.
Yeah, I mean, the season for Michigan was pretty much over. That was their biggest game of the year. Maybe there's an argument that Michigan is kind of coming together as a team. I mean, they beat the brakes off of Alabama.
That's true, Jack. And the other part of it is Michigan doesn't see Ohio State the same way. It's a weird situation, but Michigan, maybe because they've had a little more success in the rivalry in recent years, Michigan sees it as, if we beat Ohio State, great, but we're really measuring ourselves by Big Ten championships and beyond that. And Ohio State has been, beating Michigan is job one. If we win a national championship after that, great. But if you didn't beat Michigan, there's kind of that hole there.
And that's a Ryan Day thing. Like there's been plenty of Ohio State coaches that set the tone differently and say, hey, I mean, we beat Michigan, that's fine, but we're here to compete for national championships. I mean, this is like a Ryan Day issue, I think.
Yeah, and before Jim Harbaugh got there, it was the other way around with Brady Hoke, which is one reason why he didn't last. He made the rivalry too big of a thing, and it overwhelmed him. Like this is a huge rivalry. Don't get me wrong, but if you make it into too big of a mental thing, it can chew you up and spit you out. It did it to John Cooper back in the 90s. Did it to Brady Hoke, and if Ryan Day doesn't bring home a title, it might do it to him.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say lay the 6. I mean, that's where I'm at here. Ohio State should win the national championship. I think we're all kind of on the same page on that. They got a $20 million payroll. They've looked good all season except for a game against a really tough Oregon team and a hiccup against Michigan. Yeah, they looked good against Oregon here. They beat the brakes off of Texas or Tennessee too. And I don't think Texas has what it takes to compete in this game. I just think mentally Texas is kind of always going to be a mess, and I think Ohio State probably
Texas has the number one defense in the nation, and when their running attack is going, they blow the doors off opponents. Their rushing attack has struggled in the game last week, and what I fear and why I might lean to Texas is that was like Texas's loss last week. So then they bounce back, come out, and if they can do something with their number one defense to force them to have to run, then Texas has a shot here. I'm going to go with Texas. I don't know if they're going to win, but I think 6 points is too much. I think it's a close game.
But Mitch, you just said it. Texas needs to be able to run the ball. Nobody runs the ball on
Ohio State. Right. Well, they need to. Yeah, I mean, you're going to have to open it up.
It's not going to happen. I mean, like Ohio State absolutely shut down Oregon's run game. Like, I mean, I said it. The Ducks got -20. I saw what they did to Indiana's run game, and Indiana. We now have to go ahead and say it. Indiana actually did deserve to be here. There was nobody below them who. It seemed
like the tight end for Texas was used primarily as well. So over the middle of the field, I just think it's going to be a better game than people think. And my aggregators that I look have it like 50-50. So yeah, we'll see.
Also, shout out Curtis.
Who are these aggregators?
I'll send them to you. One guy's name is Mitch Rogers, and then the other is ESPN's. When you click on it, no, I'm just kidding. I'll let you know. I'll send them to you.
Okay, so let's kind of table this, and we'll either take a victory lap or not next week after these games have concluded when we're on the show. But what I want to talk about a little bit is just before we get to breaking down games and giving picks for games and what's always kind of a weird end of the season sort of scenarios. Anyways, for the NFL, it's tough to pick games. But what I want to talk about is Mike Vrabel's looking for a job. And I guess we can sort of expand this just to, some of it's just the Jets in general. Like, what are you doing? Mike Vrabel has interviewed with the Jets. It looks like the Jets are thinking really hard about the latest news on the socials this morning is the Jets are thinking really hard about maybe talking to Rex Ryan.
Yeah,
we forgot he was in the coaching cycle. He's already coached the Jets once. Where does Mike Vrabel get a job, and what the hell are the Jets doing? I guess is like where I want this conversation.
I love the Ryan pick. I mean, I think I love the Rex Ryan pick. First of all, if you watch whatever show he's on, what is it, NFL Game Day or something?
Yeah, yes, he's on like Good Morning. Yeah, with
whatever show he's on is the best show, and he gives the best analysis. The guy knows football. He knows what he's doing, and there's just something about it. I think the Jets need like that big, imposing, that swagger that Ryan he brings a swagger, win or lose. The guy brings a swagger. I really think the Jets need that. I think he'd be a good fit with Rodgers. If Rodgers stays, I hope the Titans sign him because we suck anyway. At least it'll be fun watching him get sacked. But I love the Ryan pick. Here's the thing about Vrabel. The end of the day, Vrabel lost 13 of 19 games with a pretty good team. Okay. And one of the biggest things that's really going to hurt this guy is he stayed with a terrible offensive coordinator. And when they traded, when they ended up screwing up with a receiver and trading him to Philadelphia, they didn't change the plays. He knew all the plays. Tannehill was going to get killed back there. That's why Amy fired the GM over that game. So Vrabel was part of that. How do you play it?
Oh my God! Now we're talking about the GM and the Philly game again. Like, this is about Mike Vrabel's.
I don't think he's going to get hired.
This is also about conflating being good on TV with being an expert at your job.
Yeah, I was just about to say, like we can all agree that the John Fredericks radio show and soon to be John Fredericks Roku TV show is the greatest politics show out there. But nobody on this panel, including our producers, wants John Fredericks to be president. So, I mean, like, I think we should pump the brakes on, hey, if you're good on TV, maybe you can be good in the NFL.
He was a good coach,
as a coach. I don't know. No, he's not. I mean, like,
he was a good coach.
So was Lou Holtz. You know what I mean? Like, the moments past these guys. Rex Ryan doesn't need to be. Yeah, that's right. Bring back Herm Edwards. You know what I mean? Like, what are we talking?
That's a great choice.
Come on, guys.
My favorite coach
like,
ever.
Hire someone who understands how the NFL works. I think Vrabel would be fine in New York. But that team's a mess. I just kind of am interested to see where he lands. There's no way Mike Vrabel doesn't get a job, right? I mean, like, he's if Mike McCarthy can get a job,
I don't mind the Jets.
Always bang on McCarthy, man.
I don't mind the Jets interviewing a bunch of people. It's just funny that just the fact that them interviewing makes headline news. They didn't hire Rex Ryan. I mean, they're just talking to him, and might as well get his input in there. But the Jets, Jets have an ownership problem. The Washington Commanders know what that feels like. So it doesn't matter who they pick. They're not a destination. So, like, Ben Johnson's not even going to talk to them. They're only going to get kind of people desperately looking for coaching jobs. Not all of them, but a lot of them. A lot of the desperate ones are going to come over there, and we're going to hear about it. But it's very interesting to see if Woody Johnson can actually make the correct pick, so it's probably Rex Ryan. What I'm saying is they're probably hiring Rex Ryan.
Great choice.
Chad Pennington as offensive coordinator. Let's go.
He's going to be interviewing with the Jets too, probably.
Chad
I mean, within a week, Mike McCarthy will also land an interview to just, continue interviewing some retreads with a lot of old ideas, I think. I mean, I just don't see how this goes well. I mean, obviously, some of this is also going to be, what do you do with Aaron Rodgers? And like, what do you do? Which just like the team just generally, like, they're such a bad team. Like, there's so many things that you almost just take Rex Ryan because you're like, well, at least he's not really expecting too much. And we're not expecting too much, and we can have Rex here for a few years and just kind of keep things settled. But
what's the point of that? I mean, the Jets have just been a mess for really Woody Johnson's entire ownership. I mean, Bill Belichick looks like looks like even more of a genius for deciding right away. This is not the owner I want to
go there
one day.
Yeah.
Well, listen, you guys are banging on these old coaches. You guys are banging on these old coaches. I'm a Titans fan. I can't stand our coach. He can't lead. He's got to go. I'll take any of them. I'll take McCarthy. I'll take Rex Ryan. I'll take Herm Edwards.
Bill Cowher.
I'll take Bill. I'll take any of these guys who can actually call a football game.
You had one and you fired him.
Well, the guy, you gotta win games, man. The guy lost 13-19 down there.
I'm sorry. No, that was a panic move. That was a bad decision.
What was Amy thinking?
He wanted too much power, and Amy said, no.
And Amy should have said yes.
Win. No,
damn Amy.
Time.
I think
the coach we've got now is worse.
Vrabel is going to do a fine job where he gets hired. I think he might be holding out for New England, but I don't know. Like, I personally wouldn't bother with the Jets some job because it's just not a situation where you're set up for success. And I think Vrabel got a raw deal in Nashville. Tennessee panicked after 2 middling seasons. And where are the Titans now?
We're going to get the number 1 NFL pick. So basically, we suck.
Exactly. I mean, I don't think Vrabel would have mismanaged things to that badly in what is the worst division in football by a wide margin.
Knives
Well,
out.
we're the worst team in the worst division with the worst head coach on the planet, as far as I'm concerned. And what I'm pissed about is Amy Adams has not had a press conference. She needs to hold a press conference. She needs to take questions. I'm going to fly there to Nashville. I'm going to start asking. Somebody's got to hold this. If you're going to be the owner and you get all this money for a stadium, and then you're charging licensing fees for tickets, and you put that crap product on the field with a crap coach, you better stand up there in front of the media and answer questions. And when she does that, I'm flying there because I'm pissed.
There'll be like 3 people there.
I'm not really sure how this just became a referendum on the Titans, but we're going to go ahead and quickly pivot before we.
Let's broadcast it live on our Roanoke channel.
Damn
there you go. We'll save that for the off the air off cable deplatformed like extra bonus segment. It can just be John just shouting into the clouds about Amy Adams. Okay,
John's going to be head coach or GM. I feel something is bubbling.
Yeah,
I feel like something happened.
Hard Knocks needs to happen if that ever becomes a thing.
Yes.
Yeah, right. John's going to be interviewing soon. Okay, so let's talk about some games. Let's start trying to break these down. We have kind of a lot to work through. Obviously, there's some complicated scenarios at play. As always, this just is sort of how the NFL works. There are, a bunch of rather meaningless games. There are a bunch of really hard to handicap games just broadly. And then there are some that are profoundly meaningful and a little bit more straightforward from a handicapping perspective. The first game that I guess we need to talk about is, Ravens clinched the AFC North with a win. They're playing the Browns, who, on paper look like they should have zero hope of winning this game. I mean, they've looked horrible. The Browns are basically last in, every offensive category with Dorian Thompson-Robinson at quarterback. He's like last out of basically all qualified quarterbacks and everything. Do the Ravens just roll here? I mean,
quick fun fact. Here's a quick fun fact.
Yes.
Largest spread in the history of the NFL, 19.5. Second only to Colts over the Jets in the third Super Bowl, where the Colts were 18.5.
There was a game where Denver was giving 28 to Jacksonville at one point.
Whoa.
That didn't come up when I searched it, but you're the editor, so
I moved to 20. I don't know why people don't know who Bailey Zappi is, because you're about to. He's going to have the greatest upset in the history. The Steelers desperately need this one to win the division. So the only hope they have is Myles Garrett, the jerk that he is, the worst human being in the world, is going for the sack record. And that's pretty much all they've got going for them. So maybe they keep it within 20, but Myles Garrett's their only X factor.
I mean, just on principle, you have to take like 20 points, I feel like. It's just absurd.
Also, does nobody realize that it is in the Ravens' best interest to blow this game, not win it?
Why?
Have you seen Houston? The Texans are absolutely leaking oil. I mean, Tennessee's probably going to win that game on Sunday. I mean, who would you rather face, Houston or Pittsburgh?
Yeah, but they don't want to give up their home. Yeah, I mean, they're going to want the AFC North. Yeah, I mean, they're not going to do that.
This is a situation where you say screw the division, because I mean, Cincinnati's probably going to beat Pittsburgh too, and Baltimore's going to back into the division anyway.
Cleveland here, or what?
It's so tough. It is so tough.
Hell, I might throw a dollar or two on the Browns.
What is that money line?
Because
1,500. 15 to 1.
1,500.
Yeah, I mean, why not? Because it is absolutely in Baltimore's interest.
But they won't play that way. Harbaugh won't play that way. Yeah,
they probably won't.
Yeah, they're going to go. They want the AFC North.
Sorry.
I don't. They don't want to go on the road.
I would rather have the Texans and the Chiefs than have.
I'm with you, but playoff Lamar seems very real. And he is, and on the road playoff Lamar.
I still don't want to go up. I still don't want to go up against Josh Allen before the AFC.
Yeah, you're right. The road, the entire road to the playoffs. Yeah, they would bypass Buffalo most likely. Yeah.
Which is more important? You hang a banner for the AFC North and you get bumped out in the second round, or you get to the AFC Championship game and you have a much better chance.
You're describing the route. I mean, we're not the same as the Ravens, but if the Steelers beat the Bengals, they would go to Texas first, which would be.
Well, if the Ravens lose and the Steelers win, then the Steelers
then Denver or Chargers come to Pittsburgh. Yeah.
So let's get to the Bengals game, right?
I mean, that's the natural segue here. Is the Bengals are -2.5 over the Steelers. Quite a bit at stake. The Steelers can clinch the AFC North with a win if the Ravens somehow stub their toe against the Browns. There's also some playoff implications for the Bengals, who need, quite a bit to happen for them. But they do, have a path. They need a win later today, and they need to have the Dolphins and Broncos lose on Sunday. So, this is a big game. This is one of the more, straightforward handicaps in that sort of situation. I mean, part of me just thinks this is the ultimate Tomlin underdog spot. I mean, he's as a home underdog, we bring up this record all the time, particularly in division. I think the stat I'm reading here is, as an underdog in divisional games, he's 26-10-2 against the spread. Mike Tomlin is. So, I mean, for me, the Steelers haven't looked great lately. But they've
been blown out 3 consecutive games where they were out of the game in the third quarter. But let me ask this question of Mitch. I mean, what's Pittsburgh playing for today? They're in the playoffs. They don't want to win the division. They're better off playing Texas than they are winning the division. So what is the Bengals are going to win and then hope, I guess, Kansas City beats Denver, which has nothing to play for either. But what is the incentive here for Pittsburgh?
Well, if they lose Tomlin's last 3 times in the playoffs, he's been ousted in the first round, and they know that they're going to need momentum after getting blown out 3 weeks in a row. They've had injuries on the defensive side of the field, communication issues, which are real, and they've had 11 days to try to solve them. So they have a lot to try to figure out if they want to win a playoff game in the next week. So I don't think they should be in any scenario thinking, oh, what's the matchup next week and what should I do here? They need to win and get back on track, or they have no shot at making any run in the playoffs. The Bengals are a good or will be a good metric to see if they're back. Their defense is porous, so we'll see if Russ Wilson with Pickens can get back on track. But this defense needs to get on track. And the difference is if they win, if we assume in Baltimore wins, they go to that Texans team, which is a lot better than going up to Baltimore. So if they lose to the Bengals, they go to Baltimore, and that would be the 3rd time they've played. They split that series this year. But Baltimore was one of those teams in the last 3 weeks that blew them out. So it's imperative that they win. And they need to, or they have no shot at doing anything here. Just for the psyche and the makeup of this team, you can tell that this is pretty much a must win for them if they want to get past the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, Pittsburgh's ideal scenario here is that Baltimore goes ahead and beats Cleveland, because if that happens, then the Steelers win and they play Houston, lose and they play Los Angeles. If Baltimore loses, then Pittsburgh has no shot to play Houston.
Right. So I don't think anyone's sitting starters today. And you know what? It was brilliant the way they did these games, because I know the AFC North was at stake, but with the 20-point spread, they weren't really worried about making Pittsburgh and Baltimore play at the same time. But the Bengals don't know their fate yet, so they are one of the hottest teams in the NFL, and they could still get in. And I tell you what, I didn't talk about the Bengals at all, man. If they get in, nobody wants to face that team. They'll have that swagger.
We'll talk about that a little bit when Kansas City and Denver come up.
Yeah. So I mean, the Bengals, that's going to be a sneaky team if they get in, and teams have got in with 2 teams losing in the last week. The Steelers have been the recipients of it 2 years in a row, so it happens. So the Bengals
what are the two teams that the Bengals to get in need to lose? Denver
and Miami.
Denver and Miami. Yeah.
And 2 is not playing.
Yeah.
So they have a shot. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's going to be interesting. We're kind of going to pivot here from AFC North to talking a little NFC South.
Well, before we do that, I got to talk about one of our sponsors, MyPillow. So we moved into this in the process of, it takes a while, moving into this apartment studio here in Washington, D.C. And, you got to buy a lot of stuff, right? So rather than go to the store and spend all this money, we just went to mypillow.com, and I outfitted and I should say me, I didn't do anything. And outfitted I didn't even order it. So let's be honest here. Ann goes to mypillow.com, puts in promo code Godzilla. Here's what she gets. King size bed, a king size bed frame, a full size bed for Joe when he comes, a full size bed frame, all the sheets, all the pillows, all the towels, all the dish towels, an extra pair of slippers for me, one for Joe when he comes. Got all that done. I don't even know as the boxes were coming, 2 mattress toppers, all the sheets, everything, pillowcases. Sure, is it all online? Saves about $1,500 if we went to one of the home stores. Products are better. We saved all this money and outfitted our entire place. With all these savings, you can do a lot. And it's a great product, folks. So for the pillows, the Giza sheets. Oh, we also got the 2 down comforters. These are things to die for. All you got to do is go to mypillow.com, mypillow.com/Godzilla, promo code Godzilla. You're going to get the best deals ever. You get a full money back guarantee through March 31st. Anything comes you don't like it, you send it back, you get your money back. That's it. It is the easiest way to do. Everything got delivered. It got on time. We got there, brought them up on one of those dolly things. Of course, I couldn't put the bed together, so I had to pay somebody to do that because I don't know in a toolbox, nor can I hang a picture. Other than that, it was all done and did the whole thing. MyPillow.com, tremendous savings there. Big shout out to them. They're a great company with great products. And that down comforter, if you haven't bought that yet, get that. Along with the Giza sheets, they got great sales on them. You're going to sleep like a baby. MyPillow.com, promo code Godzilla.
Yeah, the next move will be just having Mike Lindell come and install all of your, fit your sheets onto your bed for you. That'll be the next move to just really,
I'd be so starstruck. I want to know what to do. I'd let him do it.
Yeah, right.
Mike's a friend of mine. He's really a great guy. I mean, he's a great guy. I don't agree with him on everything. I don't have to, but we're still great friends, and he's just the salt of the earth. He's a really great guy. What he's been through, almost died in a gutter, cocaine addict, and he's come back, and he's got a heart of gold. He's just a great guy.
Let's talk a little bit more football. Carolina Panthers have played like a team that kind of is looking forward to next season, maybe. Bryce Young has looked better lately. Atlanta is also playing like a team that's probably should be excited about next season. Michael Penix Jr. has been a pretty clear upgrade over Kirk Cousins, I think. I think that there's a lot to be excited about. Was it worth the draft pick? Probably not. But it's nice that they have, some sort of future quarterback, it looks like. I mean, from a handicapping perspective, Atlanta needs to win this game. They need the Bucs to lose to get into the playoffs. They're a 7.5-point favorite over the Panthers. It looks like there's probably a lot of points to be scored. Penix has looked pretty good when he isn't getting, pressured too much. Panthers don't generate much pressure. Likewise, Bryce Young has looked pretty good when he's got a clean pocket. Atlanta doesn't generate much pressure. So, both of these young quarterbacks should have some room to sort of throw the ball and air it out. How do we bet this game, though? I mean,
I love the Panthers here in 7.5. If you're a Panthers fan, you got a future. You really do. If you're a Falcons fan, you got a future with Penix. Cousins has got to go. I think Cousins ends up in Tennessee, which I hope, because I just want somebody who can sit in the pocket and throw a pass. So I'm good with that. Nate, come on in. But both of these teams are up-and-coming teams. I don't know what Atlanta's got to play for. I think Penix will have a good game. But the Panthers, they played a lot of close games this season. Bryce Young I love the fact they benched him and brought him back and he matured. So I'm going to take this 7.5 here with the Panthers.
Okay.
I don't feel like the Panthers are an up-and-coming team, but you can't go any lower. So, I mean,
there's only one way to
have you looked at New Orleans?
That's true. Oh my God, New Orleans is such a mess.
Hey, they have a quarterback. At least Carolina has a quarterback now.
Yeah, they have a quarterback.
I mean, I think the Panthers are the smart play here too, just because when it's the last time you see the Falcons ever cover like a 7-point spread?
Never.
Like that doesn't happen. So this is like way too many points to be giving a team that really just wants to disappoint their fan base more than any other franchise in history. Like, oh, are, but then again, they won. They do this thing where they lose and then they win, they lose and then they win. So, I mean, I think the Falcons win this game. It's a huge game for them. They're trying to get in the playoffs. Maybe they blow them out, but I don't know. I'm kind of with Dad on the 7. I figure, they probably win, but Atlanta never blows anybody out.
Exactly.
So I got on the Panthers train last week and I bet on them, and then they got it just blown.
Yeah.
Their doors blown off.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've jumped off. Falcons played really well against the Commanders as well. I think the Falcons probably cover this because the secondary for the Panthers is just atrocious. And so yeah, I think Penix will be able to do something there. Penix's stats haven't looked that great, but when you watch him, I've seen both games with him in there. He passes that test, and I think he'll have some good stats.
He's an exciting player. I mean,
Yeah.
you got to build in today's NFL. You got to have a quarterback you can hopefully build a team around, and is an exciting player. And look, Kirk Cousins at the end there, he was just done. And I think maybe that Achilles injury hurt him, has hurt his mobility more than he let on. But the second half of the season, man, he was so bad. And so really, Raheem had no option but to jettison him out of there, and they're going to cut him before March rather than pay him, which they ought to do, right? That makes sense. And then somebody's going to sign him, and my bet is going to be Tennessee.
All right. Next game up on the schedule is the Commanders taking on the Cowboys. Commanders have clinched a playoff spot at this point. They're mostly just playing for seeding. They'd really like to win so that they can either take on presumably the Rams or the Buccaneers. If they lose against the Cowboys, then they have to play the Eagles, which is not really high on anybody's list to do in the postseason. I mean, they're a 6.5-point favorite over the Cowboys right now. The Commanders are. The Cowboys have nothing to play for. I mean, this is like this whole idea that this misinformation we've been spreading on the radio about how the Cowboys are playing hard for Mike McCarthy and playing for their coach is like ridiculous.
Well, I'm the one that spread that.
I know.
Fake news. Absolutely fake news.
Well, they were in the playoff hunt as of last week, so they were playing for the playoffs.
Now I'm the purveyor of fake news. Look, I thought Dallas they got absolutely annihilated last week. Their season's over. I mean, they gave up in the second quarter. I saw the game. I was at some casino in Pittsburgh on the big screen. They quit the second quarter. It was a clown show. I think they're done. Washington is hot. I think they need to win this game. They want a better seeding. I think 6.5 is basically an underlay. I'd lay 10.5, 12. I think this is going to be a blowout. So I like Washington here, -6.5.
Yeah, I mean, the Commanders are like 10-5-1 ATS this year, so they've been covering a lot of spreads. They looked good last week. They look prime for the playoffs. I think they're going to be motivated. So I'll take the points, or I'll lay the points too. I think that the Commanders are like a pretty good team. I hope they make some noise in the playoffs. They probably won't. You know how this stuff goes, where these young quarterbacks and a team kind of makes the playoffs and then gets beat in the wild card. But I definitely don't want to play the Eagles if I'm them. So
Nobody wants to play the Eagles right now.
Yeah, the spread's weird to me. It almost has that Notre Dame feel where it's just a lot of people put money on Dallas just because. It feels like the major weakness for the Commanders is their defense, and I don't think Dallas is going to have the ability to exploit that. And Jaden Daniels is so poised and calm in the pocket, and when he rushes, even when he rushes out of bounds, he just looks like a kid way beyond his years. So I think that the Commanders roll here, and I would take them as 6.5.
Yeah, and look, Nate, you've followed the Cowboys a long time. Does McCarthy keep his job? Yes or no?
No, I don't think Mike McCarthy keeps his job. I mean, Dan, am I crazy for thinking that?
No. Also, I'm wondering, why is anyone scared of the Eagles right now? Like, Jalen Hurts still has a concussion. I mean, Kenny Pickett, really? That's who I'm supposed to be scared of in the playoffs?
That's who you're ducking in the playoffs?
I mean, if I'm Green Bay, I'm like, yeah, give me the Eagles.
No, we'll see.
I'd honestly, like, at this point right now, I mean, I don't think Washington's going to have any problems with Dallas, but at this point, I think I'd rather face the Eagles than Tampa Bay. I mean, if Hurts comes back healthy, then that's a different story. But I don't think he's going to be ready to go, or at least nowhere near 100% in that wild card round. And the thing that I'd be more scared of with dropping to the 7th seed is the fact that if you beat the Eagles, then you have to play the Lions the next week.
Well, listen,
There's no
Dan
reason to
on,
be scared of Philly.
I think I'm with Dan on Tampa Bay. I think you guys were saying the Bengals would be the team that nobody wants to face. I mean, if I'm going to the playoffs, the last team I want to play right now is Tampa Bay, because who knows? You have no idea what they're going to do. You have no idea how good they are, how not good they are. Sometimes their defense looks absolutely like one of the best defenses in the NFL. Other times they don't show up to play. You never know what Baker Mayfield's going to do. I mean, this is a team you cannot figure out. But if they're hitting on all cylinders, Tampa Bay can beat anybody on any given week. That's the one team that I wouldn't want to face going into play. I'm with Dan. I would rather face the Eagles right now without Hurts than Tampa.
Tampa Bay's identity is winning the wild card game. Like that's all they ever.
Yes, exactly.
They love just like winning the first round playoff game and then losing under Baker. And so and it's in Tampa, which I think is a tough place to play. They got the pirate ship and everything, so
Yeah, well, let's talk about that game.
Tampa.
The pirate ship.
Tampa's looking like they are poised to go to the playoffs. The one, I guess, thing in their way at this point is they need to beat the Saints. Not a huge ask. The Saints are not good by any measure right now. Defensively, horrible. Offensively, horrible. And Baker Mayfield, for the first time in his career as a professional, is a 2-touchdown favorite over another NFL team. Baker Mayfield in 2025 is a 14-point favorite over an NFL team. He's been playing great. Can you lay 14 with him here, though?
Yes.
I mean, gosh,
I said it once already.
Yes.
Have you seen New Orleans?
Yes.
Yeah.
New Orleans. I don't know what the Saints.
And Mike Evans, man, he is just on another planet, trying to go for his 11th season with 1,000 yards, and he just looks spectacular.
Right.
And with Baker playing the way he is, I don't think there's any chance that they lose this game.
On principle, this is too much for me. I'm never laying 14 points in an NFL game. I don't care who it is. I'm just, after 9, I start just playing the principle play because the value is just incredible. I mean, you can talk all you want about how the Saints suck. They do. How the Bucks are peaking. They are. How the probability that they win by 28 points is high. It probably is. But just from a value standpoint, like once you get up to 10, I'm just taking the underdog because these NFL games are just too difficult to blow teams out. I don't really care who the team is. So I mean, I'll take New Orleans just on the fact that once we get up past 10, I'm always taking the underdog.
All right. So once we get past 10, you take the underdog. That brings us to our next game, which is the Kansas City Chiefs are a 10.5-point underdog against the Denver Broncos, who have to win to get in to the playoffs. They can secure a spot with a win over the Chiefs on Sunday. It looks like the Chiefs are probably going to be resting some players. They've already clinched the number 1 seed in the AFC. That's all done. So here's where our principles really come into play.
Yeah, there we go. Let's dust it out now.
Kansas City Chiefs plus 10.5 on principle when they're playing for absolutely nothing against a Denver Broncos team that's playing for basically everything.
And they're playing for less than nothing, Nate. I mean, this is Baltimore times 2. It is absolutely in Kansas City's best interest to absolutely blow this game because the Chiefs can knock the Bengals out by getting the Broncos into the playoffs. And I'm sorry, but given that Cincinnati beat Kansas City straight up on the AFC title game 3 years ago, would have beaten them a second time if not for a missed holding penalty that would have had Butker had to kick from 60. I mean, I don't think Kansas City wants any part of Cincinnati. So if I'm Andy Reid, I absolutely make sure that we do not win this game.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not playing any of your starters and you don't have any incentive to win the game, then of course the principle doesn't apply. I mean, that's come on. Vegas
still uses that when they come up with that line.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, okay, fine. I'm taking Kansas City plus 10.5.
Yes.
So book it. I'll even put it on daily picks. I never go on there anymore.
Yeah,
That'll be my only bet
that
on daily
reminds
picks.
me. Thank you for the segue. You guys need to go on Daily Picks. Go to GodzillaWins.com. Then go to Daily Picks. You guys need to go on there. You're making picks on your show. It takes you 2 seconds. Well, it takes you about 2 minutes to pick because you got to put in your little narrative. I mean, it limits the amount of characters, so you don't have to make this long thing. And I do Daily Picks every day. I'm very diligent with it. I also bet on DraftKings exactly what I'm putting on my daily picks every single night. I got a hockey winner. I'm just going to give you free because out of the goodness of my heart, I love the Caps today at home over the Rangers, minus 166. Rangers are not that good. Caps are not going to lose 2 straight games at home. Love the Caps. It's a 12-10 game. So don't haste makes waste. Caps at home minus 166. Out of the goodness of my heart.
Hey, one quick thing on Kansas City. Does it scare you that Andy Reid's going to have like weeks and weeks to figure out like a brand new team and just come back out and be like, hey, I know we were plodding along, but I think with a break for Kansas City is bad for the NFL because they can retool, refigure out what they've had. They were stuck in that they had to play 3 games in 10 days too. So I think that I don't like them getting a break as opposed to the college stuff where it matters.
Great point.
We got another game here. I mean, so the Chargers have clinched a playoff spot, if I'm not mistaken. They're just kind of playing for seeding. If the Bengals win, I think that a win over the Raiders would get them a 5 spot. If the Steelers win, I think the Chargers are in the 6th seed. So I guess some seeding implications if you're wondering about that. I mean, the Chargers have looked real. I suspect that Jim Harbaugh will have them wanting to win. That's just sort of how he is. It's just sort of his MO. I don't think that anyone wants to really play the Chargers. I mean, Jim Harbaugh, just all he does is win and have success everywhere he goes, and they look like a team that's really sort of started to find their identity in the second half of the season. Is there any reason to bet the Raiders here?
No. Harbaugh is going to want to win this game. He believes in momentum. He believes in he's not going to rest any players. He is not going to rest anybody. He's going to want to win this game. He's going to want to see him play sharp because he knows in a week he's got to get set in a wild card game. So these are the kind of games where you bet Harbaugh because he doesn't he's not going to be resting players or doing all that stuff. He's going to go out and win this game so that he can get in this wild card hitting on all cylinders and make some noise.
Yeah, and I think I like the scheduling of the divisional games at the end because you tend to want to beat the Raiders no matter what, even if it is a principal play. Right. But it is for seeding, so yeah, I think they play hard, and yeah, I think the spread is closer because there's a feeling that he'll pull some starters perhaps, but I don't think he will, not against the Raiders. So yeah, I would go with the Chargers big here.
Any other thoughts?
I hope nobody gets injured. That's kind of like my one.
I'm not touching this game until after I see the Steelers score because if the Steelers win that game, then the Chargers have nothing to play for.
Yeah, that's also true, right? So the Chargers can improve their seeding depending on a whole bunch of other situations, as Dan mentioned. So maybe wait to see what happens in this spread, but I don't know. I mean, I'm not scared of 4.5 regardless. Even if the Chargers play some backups, I don't know if I'm scared of 4.5.
Right.
I mean, the Raiders kind of suck. So,
right.
So maybe I'll just take the 4.5 anyway, but I'm with Dan, wait to see what happens. You don't have to bet this immediately, and see if some news comes out late and maybe because if you're interested in the Raiders, especially too, you want the spread to kind of, you might want to take it now.
Right.
But yeah, Brock Bowers, watch out. That could be the X factor in a meaningless game too.
Brock Bowers, fun. Like to remind everyone that Godzilla Wins is brought to you by Native Path. Native Path Collagen. John, big believer in Native Path's collagen capabilities. Go to getnativepath.com/Godzilla. Get yourself about 45% off. Get started on your collagen journey for as low as $21. Hair, skin, nails, joints, mobility, everything. John, you want to add anything?
Well, I tell you what, I'm looking over here at my beautiful wife, Ann, of 30 plus years, and she looks absolutely fantastic. Now, she's always stunning, but since she's been taking collagen, it's like something. It's something else. She is a beautiful woman. We got my whole team taking it, but I've seen the difference. I got started on it because Ann got me on it because she kept coming home. I kept coming home and saying, "Wow, you look great. You look great." And I always say that, but I'm like, "You look better than ever. You got color in your face and your hair looks fantastic. Did you get your hair done?" She's like, "What? No, I'm just taking this collagen thing." And so you need to take it too. So that's how the whole company got started on it. She started it. She looks fantastic. So for you and your family, it's the best thing you can do. It's a protein you absolutely need. Plus, my hair's growing back. It's true. So all you have to do is go to getnativepath.com/Godzilla. Mitch, got a shot here. Getnativepath.com.
I don't know. It's been gone for
Godzilla, baby.
for a long time.
Yeah. Put that in there and get your native path. Give it to your wife. You guys are going to look better. You're going to feel better. You know, you youngins out there don't need it because your body's still producing collagen as a protein. But if you're an ex or a boomer or getting up there in age a little bit, you absolutely need your collagen. It's only $21 each. So look, it's like going to, Starbucks and buying some stuff. It's just not that much money. So go and check it out because you're going to feel better, look better. Getnativepath.com/Godzilla. You're good to go.
Yeah, we're big believers in collagen and the restorative effects. The miracle working is still being trial tested, I think. Once John comes back with some luscious locks down his back, then we'll.
It's coming back. It's coming back. See, I got it's got to grow in a little bit. We'll go back to the 1970s comb over, which I had. Yeah, we're going back to the comb overlook. Now that I'm on OANN TV, I've got to get the comb over back.
You're on OAN?
Yeah.
I thought it was just Roanoke. I thought it was just John Frederick's show live from Roanoke, Virginia.
That's for Godzilla Wins. That's for Godzilla Wins. Yeah, I'm now a contributor on One American News Network.
Oh, just a contributor. Man, that's not that interesting. You
got to start somewhere, right? After Rav fired me.
You're 67. What are you, rebuilding your career? What do you mean starting somewhere?
I love those people at OAN. They're kind of. We just went to their studio, and I was on last night, so I had a lot of.
Where was that? In like an abandoned Big Lots?
No, man, it's in Washington D.C. in one of the nicest office buildings there, right on Constitution Avenue. So it's big time stuff.
Yeah, wow.
Time stuff. Well, this could have been big time, but it's not. The Seattle Seahawks are a 6.5-point favorite over the LA Rams. There were a lot of scenarios in which this game would have decided the NFC West. That did not happen. The Rams have already clinched the NFC West. It looks like the Seahawks are mostly just playing for pride. I mean, the Rams have already pretty much indicated that they're going to rest their starters. They don't really care if they're a 3 or a 4 seed.
They should.
Dan, why should they?
Because the 4 seed gets to play either Minnesota or Detroit, and the 3 seed gets either Washington or Green Bay. I mean, that's a huge difference.
Man, so the NFC is kind of stacked. I just realized that.
Yeah, because the number 4 seed is going to have to play a 14-win team. So I have no idea why Sean McVay is thinking, it doesn't matter. I mean, unless he thinks that the Rams are just screwed against no matter who they play, which is very possible. But yeah, I would absolutely be going all out to win this game if I'm Sean McVay.
It feels like that just because maybe they're just hurt. Maybe he's just trying to rest his older quarterback.
It's going to make a difference if they have to play. If they have to play either Minnesota or Detroit.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean this line just feels fishy to me. This just feels like a Seahawks bet, just because it's just so weird. I mean, why would it?
I mean, who cares about this game? This is like the stupidest game on the card to even be betting. I mean, who cares? Seattle blew every chance they had. They're out. I don't know if LA is going to rest players or not, but and I don't think the Rams are going to go anywhere anyway. But here's a team that I hope wins. Go Patriots. I am all over the Patriots on Sunday. I want the Pats to win this game. Buffalo's playing for nothing. They're going to rest all their starters. Patriots need to win this game. Come on, Pats, win this thing. Get this win. Get it under your belt. Get some momentum into next season. I'm taking the 3.5 with the Pats.
John, What are you going to do when the Titans beat Houston?
No, I'm gonna cry.
That's going to happen. I'm sorry, but that's going to happen.
I just hope their plan is now, their scheme is they're going to alternate Mason Rudolph and Will Levis on every play. So that means at least 50% of the time I've got a shot at an interception or a fumble. At least 50%. So I'm for that.
Probably higher than 50.
Probably
Yeah, I mean,
higher.
Mason
he's
Rudolph
gonna
can
throw the
fire
ball.
up. Yeah.
He's trying to, he think the guy's got a mental problem. I don't know what's the matter with this guy, but he really needs to go to a clinic and get out of my town and just go away. They need to cut him instead of
you live in Pittsburgh.
rotating.
So is the consensus number one pick Travis Hunter? Is that what everybody's playing for?
I
Or
think
is it-
everyone's playing for Shedeur Sanders.
Shedeur, yeah.
Shedeur Sanders,
The other Colorado.
I'd rather have Cam Ward.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. He might be the Jaden Daniels of this year.
So
Better,
Jack,
but goes second.
Jack, your brother, who is a Titans fan like me, you kind of abandoned us, but that's okay. We still love you. He doesn't want to pick Shedeur because he says you get the whole Deion Sanders like social media clown show circus going on there.
They might have a shoe line or something right away. It'd be cool.
This seems like a show to have when we actually have the NFL draft.
Yeah.
Right.
Also, this is not going to happen because the Titans are going to beat the Texans on Sunday, and you're not going to get the number one pick.
Mason Rudolph's going to have three TDs, baby. He's gonna-
Yeah,
I would
Mason
say-
Rudolph doesn't want the number one pick. He wants to keep his job.
I take the Seahawks. I think. Why not?
Seahawks against the Rams. All right, me too.
Seahawks are tough.
You know what? Jimmy Garoppolo, is he the backup? Is he the starter for this? I'm going Rams.
Rams.
Yeah, he's starting.
Well, we moved from one exciting NFC West matchup to another here. The San Francisco 49ers are starting Josh Dobbs.
Oh my God, is he still in the league?
I love all this Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback talk. It's just
God.
awesome.
Why is this game
Arizona
on the card?
Cardinals are playing for nothing. They
And so are the 49ers.
They were kind of in contention to be in the NFC West hunt at one point, but they have since fallen apart. I mean, do you just take the Cardinals here because Josh Dobbs stinks and the 49ers look like they packed it in a month ago?
No, we just start going Vikes
That's
Lions.
Yeah,
Josh,
don't even bother.
How has this guy stayed in the league? What's he been on 9 teams?
He's a
right?
backup.
Like,
He's a
why
backup.
are we talking about this game instead of Dolphins Jets?
Thank you.
Hey, Dobbs was the best quarterback in the world for 4 weeks last year. Come on.
Look, yeah, that's true. Look, we
What
can
about the
talk
Dolphins
Dolphins
Jets
Jets
game?
if you want, but like, you guys do the run sheet. It's not easy to figure out which games are important, etc. Not like I'm on a conference call with
I'm just
everybody.
saying, your
Fair.
editor,
But-
your
Fair.
your
That's
editor,
true.
Dan Angel, is criticizing the.
He said,
yeah,
move,
yeah.
Dan,
President and
move
GM
along. He
rugby.
wants Vikes talk.
I'm just saying. I'm just pointing it out. Right?
Part of the problem is that I was like, we should do Dolphins Jets, and then I thought I gotta stop working on this, and so I sent the email. So so we can do Dolphin Jets if you guys want
Yeah,
to.
let's do Dolphins Jets. What the hell?
Yes, Dolphins Jets.
Oh,
Dolphins
God, Lord.
Jets. Aaron Rodgers potentially his last ever game.
hope.
Tua's not playing this week. Huntley's obviously a pretty big downgrade from Tua. The spread is I'm looking at it. It's basically
One.
pick them at this point. Yeah,
I love the Jets here in this.
You love the
game.
Jets?
Yeah, you know what? I made 3 bets. I bet the Steelers plus 2.5. I did that. That was number 1. And I'm also going to bet here I'm going to bet the Jets because I just don't see Rodgers losing this game at home against half a team. I mean, at some point, Rodgers got to win a game. He's got to look decent. I don't know what he's going to do, but he wants to prove at 42 he can still play quarterback. Right now, that's dicey. So he's going to need one big game in order to do this. So I think it's Sunday. I think they go out with a win. Miami basically is hobbled. They're playing for nothing. They don't play well on the road. So I like the Jets here, and I think it's going to be Rodgers' best game of the season.
No,
Best game of the season.
the Jets don't have sauce in this game. They're a complete mess.
Is that slang?
Sauce Gardner is not.
Oh,
Sauce Gardner's not playing in this game. Yeah, he's. I think he's injured, right? Or he's just not playing. I mean, it's been like a disaster in the locker room for the Jets. Aaron Rodgers sucks. He is not a good quarterback anymore. This is like not a Jets redemption game. This is like
I'm not one to take a victory lap on these things, but I absolutely will take a victory lap on calling the Jets crashing, because I called that back in training camp.
Yeah, and I said the opposite. I said
we all said the opposite.
Yeah, we all said the opposite. But I mean, do you guys really think Rodgers is done? I mean, do you think he's going to retire?
I think so.
I think
so.
He's absolutely cooked.
The Tom Brady ruined this whole quarterback thing. Like, it used to be you like 36, 37, 38 years old and you were done. You know what I mean? Like Peyton Manning won a Super Bowl with like half an arm on an incredible Denver team. But like, other than Brady, I mean, these guys can't play until they're 42. Remember Favre? I mean, come on, guys. Like, Rodgers is done. He needs to retire. He's not going to retire and play for the Titans.
2000 Favre got Minnesota within a fumble of going to the Super Bowl.
It was an interception, but
interception.
And
2041, when Jordan Love is available to the Jets, just say no.
Do it,
right,
dude.
Yeah.
Do it, Rex. Rex will get him.
God, Rex will be like 80.
I'm betting the Jets.
We gotta get to Vikings Lions.
Come on, yeah. I'm going Dolphins. Let's go.
Let's get to the last game on the run sheet here, and then we'll get off the air. Vikings Lions. Lions look like a 2.5, 3-point favorite. I mean, how do we bet this game?
Can't go against Detroit at home. At least I can't.
Me either. Can't.
No way. I'm taking Minnesota, baby. Sam Darnold looks incredible. This guy has taken such a leap this year in this game. The Lions are just not the team that I thought they were at the beginning of the season. So I'm going Vikings.
He's not good enough for you?
No.
What did you expect? 16-0?
Yeah,
I'll tell you what,
I wanted 15-1. Look, we all know golf is like what you call it in the dome. He's like incredible in the dome. But I like the Vikings here, so I assume I get some points. I would imagine. Yeah, I get 3 points. Hell yeah! So I'm taking the Vikings here. Sam Darnold, baby, let's go.
How crazy unfair. I mean, Detroit, just to get that monkey off their back, they finally go 14-2 and they have to play for the division on the last game of the year. It doesn't seem fair. Minnesota is so good. I get recency bias because I watched that game fully last week. But I am with Dan here. You don't go against Detroit at home. And I know they've had the injuries, but that affects their defense, but the home crowd advantage.
Yeah, but Minnesota's looked really
I know. I mean, it's a coin flip for me, but I'm going to go with the home field.
I think these teams are going to see each other again in the NFC title game.
All right, so
I hope so.
Let's all make our pick here. Let's all make our pick here on this final game because it is really the only meaningful game, one of the only meaningful games out there. So tough to go against Detroit at home, but I'm going to go with Jack. I'm going to take Vikings +3.
I like the Vikings +3. Sounds like Dan and Mitch are on the Lions.
We're on the Lions, baby.
Vikings +3 over 52.5.
All right.
Snucking over in there so John can talk about it. He's never done one.
And that is the Godzilla Win Saturday Pick Show. If you like hearing sports, don't change the dial. You're going to have Golf with Jay Delsing up next. I'm sure he's got some great interviews lined up. And we will see you all next week. Good luck on your wagers this weekend.
Don't forget our best bets on social media.